All right, welcome back, guys. We are going to build basic part number 2. So the very first thing I want you to do is you're going to start yourself a part studio, and you can create this in the same one that you did BP1. You just have to hit that plus sign, and that's going to give you the option to create a new part studio. You're going to create this part studio right here. And first thing you're going to do is rename your tab. Okay, so mine says Part Studio 1. I've already got a BP2. That's what I want you to name it. Okay, so you just rename yours BP2 and we'll be good to go. This is the part that we're going to be building. Okay, and I told you guys earlier that I'm a big fan of the least number of extrusions as possible. This one's going to have a few, but I think you'll see that it's pretty easy. So sketch number 1, I made that on the right plane. And as you can see, it is just a rectangle, 1.5 inches tall by 1.25 inches wide. Okay, so click on that right plane, and we're going to start our first sketch right there, and we're going to make our work planes invisible, and we're going to draw this. So remember, 1.5 tall, 1.25 wide. So grab your corner rectangle, and we'll go to our origin point, and I'm going to click, and it's going to be 1.25. I think I got these right. 1.5. Let's double check 1.25 and 1.5. I did. Okay. So once we've got that, I'm going to click on, actually I'm going to zoom in a little bit, then I'll click on the corner. That'll rotate it around. I'm going to hit Shift E, and it's going to try to bring it this way, but I'm going to send it the other way by telling it to go the opposite direction because I want this to be my right face. And we are going to extrude this a depth of 2.5 inches, so 2.5. All right, so over here we're going to go 2.5 inches. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to double click my mouse wheel. That's going to center it. I'm going to hit enter again, and we're ready to go. All right, so that was sketch 1. All right, so sketch 2, how do we get to our next part? Well, the next one is I'm going to basically cut my rectangle out there in the front. All right, it's 1 inch tall. Pull this down so you can see it. 1 inch tall, 1.5 inches wide, and 1/2 inch from this wall to this wall. All right, so click on your front panel, click on that face, start a sketch, Shift S. Remember, you always have to click a face in order to start drawing. If you don't, you're not going to get, it's not going to allow you to draw. So let's double check our dimensions. 1 inch tall, 1.5 inches wide. All right, so we're going to grab our corner rectangle, go up here to this top line, and just start dragging. All right, so 1.5 inches wide, 1 inch tall. That gets me those dimensions. Then I need to switch to my dimension tool, the letter D. And by doing that, that's going to allow me to put a distance between these two walls. Okay, so I'm going to click here on this wall. And if you notice, you see that point right there? That's what I was telling you about earlier in the other video. We don't want to dimension to one of these points, okay, because that messes with the system because we're dimensioning to a specific point rather than the line. So here, the whole line highlights. Here, you just get that point. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're highlighting the entire wall. So click that, pull it up, and that should be 0.5. And we are done with our sketch. So we can throw this back into where we can, it's a pseudo isometric, and we're going to extrude. So Shift E, and it's going to try to add material we want to remove. And again, we want it to go through all. That's going to take it all the way through. All right, now we're getting there. So for my next sketch, we are going to actually be cutting this half circle out. Okay, let me get rid of this for you. All right, so if you notice, we've got this half circle or partial circle. It's actually a quarter circle that goes through this part and through this part. Okay, so this is a little bit hard to see if you're just looking at the drawing because of the graph paper. It makes it a little bit hard to see. But what I was able to do is I was able to count from this corner over to the edge of the block, and I realized, okay, that's 1 inch. Okay, so if I have a 1 inch radius, that means I have a 2 inch diameter. Okay, and so I know that this corner here is going to be where my circle is centered. So I'm going to grab this wall here. I'm going to grab my right hand face, spin it around. I'm going to click on this face, then I'm going to start a sketch. And I'm going to zoom out and slide this down. And I'm going to grab my center point circle, letter C, and we're going to go to this corner right here. And we're just going to draw, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to tell it I want this to be a 2 inch circle. Okay? And now, some of you guys are looking at this and you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, what about all this that's outside the shape? You don't have to worry about that, because as long as part of this is in the shape, we're okay. All right, so 2 inch circle, that's what I want. And just so you guys can see, because I don't think I dimensioned it. No, I didn't. Okay, so we're good. 2 inch circle. We can throw that back into a little bit of an isometric. And we can hit Shift E. And again, it's going to try to build it out, but that's not what we want. We want to remove. And we're going to take it through all. Again, it's going to take it through the entire part. And if you notice, it's cutting it just the way we want it. We can hit that green check mark, and we are good to go. All right, so the last thing we need to do to this part is we need to add this hole right here. All right, so for that hole, that was my sketch number 4. Those are the dimensions. All right, so it's a 0.5 by 0.5. All right, so grab your top plane, or click on the top plane to rotate your piece. Click on that center face right there to highlight it yellow. Shift S. Grab your corner rectangle, which is the letter G, and just draw yourself a rectangle there. 0.5 by 0.5. Once you've done that, we are going to grab our dimension tool, so the letter D, okay? And I know that from this face down to this face, again, avoid this point in the middle. Make sure you're highlighting that whole line. That face to that face is going to be 0.25 inches. And from this face to this wall is going to be 0.5. That puts it right in the center. We can come up here and click our view cube, Shift E. That's going to extrude. We want to again remove through all, green checkbox, and you are done. You have created basic part number 2. So throw that in isometric mode, and if you haven't already done so, rename your part studio or rename your tab to BP2, and then rename your part also to BP2, so that you should end up in the end with this right here, BP2, BP2. All right, that's it for basic part number 2. Come back in just a few minutes and we will build basic part number 3.